Hello, Haunted Family. Welcome back. Story 1. House for Sale. My family and I moved to a small town and purchased a home that was way below market value, and that should have been a warning. I remember when my father and I first met with the realtor to view the new house. I walked through it and had a strange feeling. I still can't explain the feeling. I wasn't uncomfortable or anything. It was just this feeling. My father purchased the house, and we called it home for the 4 longest years of my life. The first thing we noticed was a strange reaction that people in town had towards us. We received a lot of stares, a lot of questions about the house. We shrugged it off and decided it was just very small town life, and that people were interested in the new people from the big city. As we soon learned, it was much more than typical curiosity. The first experience we had was coming home to the front door standing wide open. We never left without locking the doors. And these doors were solid, heavy wood. My mother assumed that someone was trying to break in, but this was not the case. The open front door began to happen more frequently. It occurred about once a month. After a while, typical excuses just wouldn't do. My father always laughed at us. He didn't believe us when we told him about the door standing wide open. I think the ghost wanted very much to prove its existence to my father. The person who lived here prior to us had made this wind thingy. Whenever it turned, you knew that there was a serious storm approaching. It was made out of very heavy type metal, and it was circular. My father told us all about it. He had discovered accidentally. He said that if the thing ever turned, we needed to get into the basement very quickly. My father was planting a small garden in the backyard when he heard a whistling sound. The wind thingy was spinning at top speed. The only problem was there was no wind that day. My father never laughed at us again. It seemed these incidences occurred more often during the summertime. I remember one night I woke up and I heard my grandmother and mother talking on the porch. The strange thing about that was, my grandmother wasn't there when I went to sleep, and it was now about 3 a.m. I assumed that something must be wrong. Death, illness in the family, something tragic along those lines. I lay there for a moment and listened as they talked. I heard the chairs moving across the porch, like they were moving them. I also heard them giggling. I got up to join them, and when I went out there was no one. The porch was empty. My mother was sound asleep. I was unable to go back to sleep. There were a ton of different things that occurred in this house, but I want to concentrate on the big things. We had this dog that would sit, stare, bark, and growl in the corner near the front door. This section of the house disturbed him greatly. With all the other incidents that had occurred, we began to investigate the history of the house. We went to the local newspaper, and we found that 8 years prior to our arrival, a man had been brutally murdered in our house. From there, we went to the police department, looked through the police report. We were extremely disturbed to find out that his body was placed in a rocking chair near the front door. It seemed to us that after we discovered the information and discussed it in the house, the weird incidences became more and more frequent and more disturbing. The last major event to occur happened to my father. He was home alone, as my mother and I had spent the weekend with relatives. He said it was approximately 4 a.m. He woke to the sound of the back door being opened. It squeaked loudly. He assumed it was my mother and I. He called out to us. When he didn't receive a reply, he became concerned. He then heard heavy footfalls walking through the kitchen, coming down the hallway. He reached for the gun he kept in the bedstand, stood armed at his bedroom door. The footsteps stopped at his door. He said the hardest thing he's ever done was open that door to confront the intruder. And when he finally got the nerve to fling that door open, the hallway was empty. He searched the entire house. It was empty. The only oddity was the back door was standing wide open. 2 days later, my father put the house up for sale. And we have never looked back. Story 2. The Friendly Poltergeist. My parents and I had lived in this house for about 12 years. And we've had some pretty weird things happen. I mean, it's not like anyone has died here or anything. But this neighborhood was kind of a junkyard before the houses were built. The only thing we can figure is maybe some dead bodies were dumped here. Anyway, ever since we moved in, weird things have happened. They happened to my mom first. I thought she was kind of crazy when she told me she saw someone walking up and down our hallway. And I completely disregarded it. It happened to her a lot, and no one believed her. And then I started hearing footsteps. Then suddenly the activity stopped, and we heard nothing for a year or two. When I was about 12, I was staying home alone after school. One day I decided I'd clean the house for my mom. I had just finished up. I made sure the cabinet doors were closed. It has a click lock on it, so it can't possibly open by itself. And then I left and went to a friend's house. When I came back, that cabinet door with the click lock was open, so I closed it and forgot about it. I came back in later that afternoon, and it was standing open again. It really freaked me out that time. This went on, randomly, for a few more times, throughout the next year or so, and then it stopped. And that's when stuff started moving. Things that were securely placed would continuously fall off dressers. When we put them back, they'd fall off again. Things would be put down in a specific place and end up in a room that no one had been in all day. This year we actually started feeling and hearing the ghost. When I'm here alone with my grandma, and she's asleep, the ghost whispers my name and says, "Hello." My grandma swears up and down that she hears someone singing and playing music when she's home alone. We can feel the ghost with us when we're in a dark room alone. It often makes lights flicker and rooms get chilly. This all may be paranoia, but I don't think so. My whole family is freaked out, and I believe it's a ghost. It's never harmed us, and I don't think it will. It's more like a friendly poltergeist or something. Story 3. Coughing Ghost. I'm a junior in college. There's a north and south campus on my college. South campus is the historic section of town. The girls' dorms date to around the 1850s, and it's supposed to be haunted. Right next door is the music center. The music center was originally the Single Brethren's house, housing bachelors of the Moravian order. During the Civil War, the Single Brethren's house was used as a hospital for soldiers, and it's supposed to be haunted. Last year I was in the practice room on the second floor of the building. I'd stopped for a minute and was looking at the music when I heard someone clear their throat. I was the only one in the room. Needless to say, that was an end of practicing for the night. I lived in the dorm next door for the next 2 years, and there are tons of stories. At one point, I don't even know how long ago, there was this walkway that connected the dorm to the main hall and the music center. Supposedly, a little girl fell out of a window on the walkway and tragically died. Some people have seen her ghost skipping along the back stairwell of the main hallway. There's a mirror hanging in one of the lounges on the first floor. It's very old. The story goes that if you and your sweetheart look in the mirror together, you will see yourself as an old couple, or see an old couple behind you, and that means you're going to get married and have a long life together. There's also an old room. It's always locked. It's called the zoo room. It's called that because there's a forest scene painted on the walls that is the oldest mural in the state. The lights go on and off by themselves in that room. A few years ago, around Halloween, a light went on in that room, but the door was locked. One of the cleaning women, with a key, tried to unlock the door to go turn off that light, but the door would not open. She called security, and they came and tried to unlock the door, but it wouldn't unlock for them either. A few nights after Halloween, the light went off, and the door unlocked itself. During my first week in college, I was cold one night, trying to sleep, but I was too tired to move to get a new blanket. I woke up the next morning to find my other blanket on my bed, arranged perfectly. I know I didn't get up, so who put the blanket on me? Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you did, leave me a comment down below, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to, and as always, thanks for listening. I appreciate you. Music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio.